Right? Online storage means one of these connected to your network.
Okay.
Right? It's always on your network. So whenever you want, you can access it. Your access will be slow, but you will be able to access it without having to, pull a hard drive out from a cupboard.
Okay.
So my stack of hard drives is what I call an offline archive.
Okay.
This is what I call an online archive. Right? I have both, but this is an online archive. If so let me explain the distinction. If I took the network cable out and left it on the ground, now it's an offline archive.
Okay.
Right? If I put it back in, now it's an online archive. Because it requires you to go there and plug something in for it to work. That's an offline. Okay, so now you have the last one, which is cloud storage. Everyone's sort of familiar with this. It's extremely slow, limited by a wonderful ISP and their benevolence. Right? If they're happy and they give you a good plan, your access rate will be better. But in any case, it's awful in India. It's not a viable solution. They're extremely expensive, even if the plan is not expensive. So, like for example, Microsoft now gives you a TV free if you have an Office 365 subscription. It's a good amount of data, and it's free. It's literally free, right? But the problem is, how much will you pay for bandwidth, right? You have fair usage policy on all our connections. Once you hit that limit, now you're stuck at some very ridiculous low speed. So then it'll just to upload one wedding might take 3 months. But once you hit that cap, and then now you're stuck with a very slow connection, right, for everything else. So it's extremely expensive. And a lot of ISPs now give you booster packs, right? They're called booster packs to make it sound cool. Now you can have another 100 gigs and we charge you again for it. So all these things add up. Ultimately, they'll all cost you money. They're extremely reliable. This is an important part. They're generally bulletproof. Mostly because all the backup of data and stuff is not on your side. You don't have to think about it. So once I put a file on Dropbox, so this actually happened to me once. Dropbox is a service I use. The reason I use it is because I have a friend who works in Dropbox and he gave me a lot of space. Right? So that's the only reason I use it. Otherwise, you spend for Dropbox, you have to spend something like $9 a month for 100 gigs of space. Something like that. It's reasonably expensive. It's not terribly expensive, but it's reasonably expensive. So I have like the 200 gigs of space for free, which is why I use it. But it's still worth spending money on. So it's extremely reliable because all the backup stuff is data center level stuff. They're doing enterprise level backup on your data. You're just storing it with them. The catch is, and Dropbox specifically, a lot of these cloud backup services specifically give you versioning and backups. So what happened once was one of my colleagues deleted an entire folder because I shared the folder. We could both edit. I'll never do that again. I will never give anyone else edit rights into my folders. Right? He just deleted the folder accidentally and forgot about it. When it deletes on his computer, it deletes on mine as well. So I lost it. Right? Because it keeps mirroring across computers. All I did is go back and it gave me an option to restore that folder. One click and it came back. Right? So that's an amazing thing. That's a beautiful thing. This is perfect for long-term archival as long as you keep paying bills, right? What happens if you decide not to renew your subscription to Dropbox? What happens to your data? I don't know. I don't know how long they'll keep your data after you stop paying your bills. Obviously, it can't be indefinite, right? Because they will keep getting rid of it over time. So if I fill up my 200 gigs and suddenly forget to pay the bills or don't pay or stop paying and decide I don't want the service, and it'll shrink down to the free thing, which for free I had only 10 gigs. Right. So now what happens to the 190 gigs? How much time later will they get rid of it? So those you have to look at all the terms and conditions of individual providers. So that's something you have to be very careful about. And there's a very unlikely event that the whole company might go out of business. Right. After that, all your data is gone. Any questions about this? No. So these are some providers: Amazon Web Services, Dropbox, CrashPlan. I use Dropbox. A lot of people swear by Amazon Web Services. So Amazon Web Services has a platform for which you can upload terabytes of data for very little money. The problem is they charge you for downloads. Okay. So that's how they get their money back. So yeah, that's smart. Right? They grab you. Once they get you, and they won't let you out again. Right? So and it's a significant amount you have to pay for downloads. All right. So how much storage do you ultimately need? This is a general rule of thumb. And this is what I think of as being fairly conservative, right? So think of the most storage you will possibly need, and most people have this very amorphous, vague idea that I need this much storage to manage this year. That's always wrong, right? So there's a general rule. There are two general rules. One rule is your expenses will always expand to occupy your salary, right? Storage requirements will always expand to take up available space. You have 3 terabytes, it might look great, but it will get over fast. When you had 2 terabytes, that will also get over at equally the same rate. It doesn't matter how much storage you have, it's going to get full because you will figure out ways to use all that up, and it will get more. Remember this. Hard drives are going to fail, they can be replaced, but your images cannot be replaced. Right? It is far more expensive to reshoot something than it is to replace a hard drive. And in the off chance that you do data recovery on a bad hard drive, it can get very, very expensive. Do you know how much it costs roughly?
Yeah, it's based on the size of the data.
So if it's
like in a good lab like Stellar or something, it's around 20K or
20K for how much data?
100 GB or something.
Okay.
And they charge a inspection fee also, which is very high. Just to inspect the hard drive.
So it could go at up to 50K-ish.
Yeah,
easily. Right? So that's what would happen if you lose one hard drive with your data, with critical data. Right? So backup, a good backup system is critical. Over time it will pay for itself 10 times. Right? And this is fine. I mean, you could lose data. A lot of us are just shooting for pleasure and all, right? You would, at worst, you'd feel really sad about it. That I lost a hard drive, I lost those photos. And some people might make a huge trip, like you might make a trip abroad to shoot. And if you lose that data, then you basically lost that entire money for the flight and everything, right? You had a good experience, but the entire focus was not fake. That's also okay. What is worse is if you're shooting for a client and then you lose the data, right? Then you have to recover it no matter what. Otherwise, your entire reputation is ruined. It's in tatters. So it's very important you do this. Alright. So software for import. So we're talking about. I skipped something. Yeah, this wasn't synced. Okay. I'll talk about. We'll come back to this, but it's out of order. So the software you need for import. These are 3 pieces of software that you can use for importing, which is copying files off your memory card. Photo Mechanic, Lightroom, Windows Explorer, or Finder. Right. Windows Explorer is the worst in the sense that, like I said in the beginning, you want to automate it as much as possible. So these two are they're very nice and automated ways of copying files over. I'll show you how to use both of them. Lightroom, the biggest misunderstanding people have with Lightroom is that you can only import 1 card at a time. I'm going to show you where you can do 3 or 4 cards at a time. Right? So it's much easier. This is the software you'll need for backup. These are the softwares which you have. I'm going to come back to this. Let's skip this for now. So what we're talking about now is what do you do before you go for a shoot. Okay, so this is as important as what you do during and after. So there are going to be basically 3 steps, right? As you go in the shoot, as you go for the shoot, after you finish shooting, and then when you come back home, right? So this is how you manage your memory cards while you go for your shoot. When you start, every memory card should be formatted, right? After you finish your backup and everything, after a shoot is done and you make sure the data is copied on your computer and backed up, everything is done, the camera should be, the card should be formatted for the next shoot. Don't go in with the old card. Right? Sort your memory cards from fastest to slowest. Your fastest cards are always going to be in your camera. The slowest cards, it doesn't mention here, but what I do with the slow cards, everyone's accumulated slow cards over time, right? You might have some slow cards. So those cards go into my camera bag and they're permanently in my camera bag. They never come out. Right? So they're always, these cards are sitting inside. I have one slow one, this is my slow card. This is always sitting inside this camera bag. My other 2 camera bags have more like this. The reason is, I don't know if any of you have experienced it, but I've had this brain fart where I've forgotten my cards. Yeah. Right? So it happens. And it happens under duress, right? You're in a rush to get to a wedding, you're not a morning person and you go out in a morning shoot, right? So you tend to forget things. So this is one of the things which I keep forgetting. So it happened to me once, and after that I've said I've never had that happen again. So I've taken that stress away by taking away my human error from it, by just leaving a card in the bag, right? Always, and these are cheap. Get some slow cards and just leave them there. At least you'll be able to keep shooting, right? You won't have this embarrassing situation where you go on for a wedding and now you don't have a card and you have to pretend to shoot until your assistant can get you a card, right? So that could happen. So fastest cards are in the camera, slow cards go in your bag. If your camera has 2 card slots, always use them. There are some exceptions. Configure the camera to write RAW to both cards. So you basically are mirroring, right? Or at the very least, RAW plus large JPEG, right? That's the very least you can do. The problem is, and the exception is, a camera like the 5D Mark III, where if you put an SD card in the slot, your camera automatically gets slow. The write speed becomes as slow as the SD card, so it slows down the camera. If that's the problem in the way you shoot, then you should avoid it. You can avoid it. And some cameras don't even have 2 slots, like the 60.
Yeah.
Right? It just doesn't have 2 slots. So you're basically stuck shooting on 1 slot. So you make sure your very best, newest card is in that camera. Right? Yeah, this side is covered. So this is critically important, especially for you guys who want to shoot events. Always carry enough memory cards that you will not need to reuse a card during the shoot. Right? What do I mean by that? You should be able to cover an entire event. This is for an event, it obviously is not going to work for a long holiday. Right? But you should be able to finish an entire event with the cards that you have, without reusing the cards. Now why is that? Because if you reuse the cards, and if you made a mistake in copying the data, now you're screwed.
Yeah.
Right? So by not reusing the cards, after you copy the data, your memory card becomes an additional backup. You get one more backup in a memory card, which is great. Okay? Any questions about this? This is how you prepare for a shoot.
What is the life of SD card, any SD card, fastest or slowest?
I am honestly not sure.
It's based on removal cycles.
Okay.
Removal as in.
As
on
in
the
from
camera? Yeah.
Okay.
It's around 50,000 or so.
Okay, so it's not
like
it's a
more
non-factor.
than
Yeah.
that. 50,000 doesn't happen.
Yeah, we do it at most like twice or thrice in a day, right? You have to go like.
No, exactly. You change the card before the cycle.
Okay, so it's basically immaterial. It doesn't matter. Okay. So sports storages, bits of storage and accessories will you need? There are 2 different scenarios. I